right. And we're live. Hey, Joe. Hey, K5. How's it going? Thank you for being a supporter. Again, K5, that's great. I'll get some more emojis up there for the YouTube members. So, yeah, click that join button if anybody is interested. Just posted more of the Mutant Chronicles fiction on the YouTube members and also the Patreon. So you can tell it's a solo cast. So Chris is away with family for the New Year holiday. So New Year holiday, of course, is the equivalent to the Christmas holiday here. So all the good family stuff is going on. And hopefully I can get some decent sound quality here. I think I'm definitely going to have to do the little moment of silence to get the air conditioning and kind of room tone down. Nice. But, so we've got a few stories to go over, and I guess we can take a look at a few things. Maybe that won't be so interesting on the audio, so maybe I should do that after the actual beginning and end. Oh, there should be on the YouTube, on the YouTube page should be right under the video where it's, like and dislike and share. There should be a join button. So it's, join right next to the upturned table. So thank you guys for supporting, and thank you for being mods as well, Joe. I appreciate that help a lot in case we get the occasional strange viewer. But great. So yeah, it's New Year's Eve here. So shelves are empty. Everyone is stocked up for the holiday, and things are getting close to the day where it used to be where everything was completely shut down, but that's no longer the case. It used to be the first, second, and third. There was literally nothing open, and people just stayed at home. You went to your hometown and you just kind of hung out with your family. But that's not the case anymore. People have to work, restaurant workers and, bar workers, and everybody is busy now on these days because they need the extra business. And we are right on the verge. We just had a big uptick in a certain number. So we're going to join Korea and China, I think, after the new year in new cases of something. All right. Oh, yeah, maybe the mobile. Yeah, Joe, it may be. I'm not sure if the join exists on mobile in a different way, because maybe the billing, the way that it's set up. Who knows? YouTube and Google. You'd think because it's all one company, they would be able to figure that out, but are all kind of overseen by one overlord. All right. So and now we can drink water on stream as well. All right. So Chris isn't here, but we'll do the best we can. All right. So let me bring up my notes before we get started. So I hope everyone had a good holiday and a safe one, and that your new year is looking good as well. Where are we? There we go. All right. So I guess I'll do the little moment of silence at the end, but I'll definitely need to do that because you can probably hear the air conditioning in the background. I got to get that out. All right. So let's do this, and then I'll jump back on the chat after we kind of go through the news. So talk to you guys in a bit. All right. So let's get started. So maybe the microphone won't be on screen, so I can get a little bit better audio here. All right. Welcome to the weekly. I'm Jeremy. And this week there's no Chris. So another solo cast, but this is due to holidays. So Chris is enjoying the New Year holiday with family. And I'll just run down a few of the headlines we had at the very end of the year. And then we'll be back next week, probably for a best of 2021, if there was such a thing. So maybe the worst of. I don't know. I don't know anymore. It's hard to feel anything. One year is just bleeding into another. So this week on the weekly, Dark Souls tabletop RPG, a free 5e adventure by Wizards of the Coast, Miniature Market bought by Asmodee before the Embrace, and an interesting change in the Giantlands credits on the actual published books. So let's get started with Steamforged. So Steamforged Games is producing a tabletop RPG for Dark Souls. So they previously did the board game, a really well-produced board game that emulated on the tabletop pretty accurately the experience of the video game. So Dark Souls has had 3 installments. So I guess that would mean it has enough lore for a tabletop RPG. But I'm really curious if that's enough for players that are used to really deep, rich worlds. I've seen people do lore videos for Dark Souls on YouTube, so there may be enough there, but it also may be a little difficult to figure out how you would role play some of these, more generic types of characters. Hopefully they've got answers to that, because basically the fight, die, repeat gameplay in the video games, it might be interesting, especially if you can keep returning. So if you expect to die in an RPG, but there's a mechanic where you come back, that may be quite interesting. We'll have to see. And I'm not sure, I don't think they have anything as far as a quick start or a preview yet. So, they're really good. They're really good at doing Kickstarters as well. So we'll see if this is actually headed there, or if because they have the license, they're just going to produce this directly. So they did produce, previously, they do have some experience with RPGs. They did the Epic Encounters. So those were 5e D&D adventures with miniatures, kind of a little strategic, board for miniature adventures for 5e. And those looked nice. Those were well produced. So they do have experience with tabletop rules and the 5e system, so we'll see what they actually come up with as far as a whole world and system, and what they're going to use. I wonder if it's just going to be 5e because they already have that experience. I'm not sure the 5e rule set would make a satisfying Dark Souls game, but we will find out. We'll find out in the new year, and I think there'll be a lot of interest in this. I think there's still that whole setting and that series of games is still really popular. So we'll be looking at a popular Kickstarter if they decide to crowdfund it, or keep our eyes open for the updates. And I'd really like to see kind of how they're going to do a rule set. It would be great if they just stuck with something simple like a D6, again similar to the board game. Just doing D6s and something a little more, rules light and story based. But I guess, combat is such a big part of it. Maybe they don't want to do that. So we'll have to see. I guess the combat in 5e would work, but I'm just worried about the classes and the role play for the rest of it. We'll have to see. So I'm sure there'll be more to this, and it's a good studio, so we know the materials are gonna look great, and hopefully it'll be a nice solid rule set. So lots of questions, but still, that's pretty exciting. That's a pretty exciting news, and if they really, especially working with if they get materials from the studio, from the license, then they'll have a lot to work with as far as fleshing out that world, and a lot of kind of interesting mechanics and things that will work. So we'll find out if you can, how many times you can actually die in a single RPG session. All right. And Wizards of the Coast had a little treat for us at the end of the year. They released what they called an abridged version, and also kind of a preview. It was called both of those things, of their Dragon of Icespire Peak. So this was previously included in the Essentials kit, as their full adventure, and it kind of revolves around gnomes, helping gnomes deal with a young white dragon. And I think for a starting adventure, that's pretty good. You know, you don't often get to deal with a dragon as a first level player, but hopefully all will go well. So I'll put a link to the source for this. It's the D&D freebie page, so you can download both the abridged adventure, which I believe is only about 16 pages, and then they also include pre-generated characters. And I don't think these were included anywhere before. I think because the Essentials kit had everything you needed to actually create characters. So the starter set and the Essentials kit were a really nice combination, because you could play the Mines of Phandelver, but with characters that you rolled up, and so that was a nice combination. So we'll see what interest that. I mean, it's really aimed at people that have very little experience with D&D 5e, and maybe they want to try this for the first time, because the adventure itself walks the DM through everything they should be paying attention to, and kind of builds on the mechanics. You slowly kind of deal with combat and different skill checks and things. And if you're playing a pre-gen character, then you can kind of learn how different classes and things work without having to be choosing things that you don't really know much about. But yeah, that was a little bit of a surprise, but it's good. It's good they take advantage of this introductory material, because I think everybody has purchased the Essentials set that would be interested in that as a physical product, and now it's being offered as a free download PDF. So they took a little bit of the kind of lore and setting out of it. It's stripped down to just the adventure and some of the tips. But yeah, I think it's a good place to start. And the other thing that they do really well is using the kind of Sword Coast as your starting point for adventures. So there's also I think a page or a little bit of an entry about where to go from here. So if you do get players interested in this, this is a great jumping off point. It's got a lot of hooks to other adventures and things you can carry them into any of the pre-published adventures, or something of your own, an adventure of your own based on this, and they give you some kind of guidance about a good way to move away after this adventure. So we'll take a look. We'll take a look at that, the PDFs in the live stream. So if you're listening to only the podcast, take a look at our YouTube channel, Upturned Table, and I'll go through the PDFs, and we'll take a look and see what you actually get, and see how much information is there, and kind of we'll figure out what they removed. All right. And we got a little piece of interesting information from Rob from the Osaka Adventurers Union, our faithful DM. And I guess this would classify as another episode of, wait for it, As the Gygax Turns. So join us now for another update on the melodramatic and ever eventful saga of the heirs to the Gygax throne and legacy. So, Rob, who does do his own podcast. I'll put a link to his GM Ronin podcast. It's really interesting, and he kind of goes through everything that he's experiencing with running games, and the flavor of various old school systems, and yeah, you should definitely listen to that. So I'll put a link to Rob's podcast. But he pointed out in the Osaka Adventures Union Facebook group that there was a change to the credits. Oh, and actually, I can do a little bit of a visual here. A change to the actual credits of of the Giantlands. So first, let's get Giantlands up here. All right. So let me switch us over here. So sorry for the audio listeners. This will be a little bit of a visual thing, but it'll confirm confirm our deepest fears. So here we have the Giantlands. So James M. Ward and Stephen E. Deinhardt are credited as creators, and with Ernest Gary Gygax Jr. And so here is the cover that we saw at the beginning, before all of this drama started happening. And this is even back before when they were still using the TSR mark for everything. So science, fantasy role-playing game playable with pen, paper, and dice. So, right. So, it's 2021. So I guess they anticipated that's when they were going to be published. So yeah, they had a little bit of a Kickstarter for this. And this happened during the whole kind of controversy. And the other thing, I guess I'm going to have to do this the ugly way. There we go. And so this was what Rob showed the group. So here we have, I guess, the three booklets, the volumes, the Keeper's Guide, the Fifth Age Index, and the Spirit Guide for Giantlands. So these are the published versions with the updated Wonder-filled logo there, so we no longer see TSR. But an interesting change is you've got James M. Ward and Stephen E. Deinhardt with Gary Gygax Jr. So Ernie no longer visible, and we're going with Gary Gygax Jr. So yeah, that's an interesting change, and it's I think if they're going to keep promoting that, that's going to mean that we're going to get more, I don't know, we're going to get more tangled up with people that are claiming certain things. But I think this is just a move towards legitimacy, as I'm the chosen son. I don't know. I'm the one that can put their stamp of approval on anything that is going to carry their father's name. So I don't know. It continues. And so I'm so glad we have that graphic now, because we'll be, I'm sure, getting plenty of use out of that. And thanks again, Matt, for making that for us. So yeah, so Gary Gygax Jr. now is going to be involved with future projects here. And so I guess, I don't know, how does that make people feel about Giantlands? Does that make it any more legitimate? Does that raise more questions about what they're trying to do in the future? And at least, now they're not going to be using the TSR mark for that. And how is, James M. Ward feeling about this? I'm sure, there was some, when there was all of the nonsense going on with TSR 3 earlier this year. He didn't seem to be happy that with the association of Giantlands and that whole mess. But we will be back for, I'm sure, another of many installments of As the Gygax Turns. So an interesting development in publishing credits. So we'll see what happens there. And lastly, there was another little piece of information, or just an interesting kind of combination of things. So we talked about in previous podcasts, the Embracer Group has purchased Asmodee. So Asmodee had already acquired Fantasy Flight and several other game makers. They're based in France, and the Embracer Group, based in Sweden, now owns them. And I was a little bit off on my purchase price. The purchase price was almost $3 billion US, like 279 or something, 2.79 billion. So a huge price. But I think part of that large price was also because prior to the purchase earlier in 2021, Asmodee did purchase Miniature Market. So Miniature Market is one of the larger discount board game RPG. I think they do Magic cards and just about everything. So tabletop RPGs, board games, miniatures, collectibles, a pretty wide variety of things, and they do ship internationally when I order things from them here. And I think that's the only reason I really know much about them, is because they're one of the few discount tabletop retailers that ships easily to Japan, although their shipping has been really chaotic. Sometimes it's cheap, sometimes they're changing it, and sometimes it takes more than a month. So a little bit unpredictable on this end, but we'll see what happens because Asmodee purchased them in 2021, and then Embracer Group announced that they had purchased Asmodee. So in a presentation, they had previously talked about, so when we take a new studio on board, so this is basically Asmodee talking about the purchase of Miniature Market and what this meant. When we take a new studio on board as a third-party publisher that we distribute, it's a great platform for further acquisition. We test the performance and we develop a strong relationship with the studio team. And over the years, when the time is right and we think it's time for us and the studio, we propose them to join our family because we know the team very well. And their performance, 100% of the acquisitions we make are basically growing since the inception date. That's super important in the context of understanding the Asmodee model. So basically, they were talking at this time that they were not only going to be a distributor, publisher, but also retailer. So the announcement after the Asmodee purchase Miniature Market is they would carry all Asmodee games at full retail price. So that pretty decent discount that Miniature Market used to offer, and that was the big thing that compelled a lot of people to shop with them, plus international shipping, was kind of eliminated. But they were talking about this in terms of kind of a Steam model of producing games, like using the PC game model of Steam, so that they're producing, publishing and selling. So so that's what Embracer Group bought. So I don't know, what does all this mean? We're still we'll still yet to see. I mean, people have already complained after the acquisition of the Fantasy Flight games by Asmodee that they reduce the staff, reduce their production. Fantasy Flight is a shell of what they used to be. They're producing much less. And that may be, we don't quite know if that's just a symptom of the times that we're in, where physical production is definitely, there's a lot of interference going on if you're producing stuff in China and shipping globally, or if that was just Asmodee's plan to kind of downsize and make them a little more profitable or a little more manageable. So Asmodee was previously talking about being the Steam platform of board gaming. And now that they're owned by the Embracer Group. So a crazy statistic with Embracer Group. So they are comprised of 17 publishers, 82 studios, and then mostly we're talking about video games. And so that means in the pipeline for the foreseeable future, I guess until March 2026, that means they have 25 AAA video games in the pipeline for production. That's crazy. Only 2 of those, which have been postponed due to current circumstances and people having to remote work and things. But that's pretty impressive. And I'm sure now that they're getting into owning retailers, discounters and online retailers, and a board game, tabletop and board game distributor as well, it's getting interesting. They're moving into a lot of new areas, and I hope they know what they're doing. I hope it doesn't actually start to alienate and ruin some of our favorite tabletop properties, just because they're going to be looking for synergy with video games or whatever. And the next thing we're going to have to be expecting them to do is be investing in some other entertainment, television or something, so they can move these properties through things. Although one of the things that we had talked about before, so if they purchased, we saw Dark Horse Comics was embraced, the last we knew, by the Embracer Group. But as far as I think most licenses, so the licenses for different IPs that Dark Horse has would be specifically for producing comics. So, these things really aren't very portable, although it probably does, give you a little bit of advantage to getting access to other IP, other things, other medium for the same IP licenses. If you're already working with them for comics, then you might be able to be a little bit more influential in getting an IP license for video games. And so that may be the thing that they're doing. But as far as I know, when you have a license for a specific thing, it's to produce, from a certain, even maybe a portion of an IP to produce, based on these movies. Because we saw, I believe, the Terminator tabletop RPG was basically an IP that was the first movie and the comic books, the comics that I think Dark Horse, of all things, had produced. So their IP was limited to, so it wasn't any of the sequel movies or anything that came later. So it was basically the War with the Machines and the first Terminator movie. And so you have limitations to IP licenses like that. So when they acquire Dark Horse, that doesn't mean instantly they're producing Star Wars board games or whatever. But I'm sure that helps. That gives them a little bit more influence with the licensee to expand into those things. So we're gonna see. I don't know. A lot of people have said in the comments, the more you see one big asset management company swallow things up, the worse you can kind of imagine things are going to run. I mean, hopefully it's going to mean that all of these groups, and they've even stated, like, the people that were running it, like the structure, the management structure is going to stay in place. It's not going to mean anybody's hired or fired yet. We'll see. But hopefully that means they just have access to more resources and bigger markets and bigger distribution. So that's the thing we can hope for. But odds are, as we saw with Asmodee and Fantasy Flight, it also can mean that they strip you down to just running bare bones and at the most profitable that you can. So I don't know, the future of tabletop and everything, because it's swallowing up everything. It's looking interesting, but we won't know until the dust settles, and we'll see how they handle all of the video game studios and the release of the title. So if they do start to have trouble, or we start to hear the kind of labor abuse and things that we've heard about with the excessive crunch with schedules and things for these AAA games, then they may not be impressing anyone with their management abilities. So that should be something interesting to see. So at least next year we'll have and I completely forgot. I had a little bit of a graphic. So in the future, anytime we're talking about Embracer Group, and of course I apologize again for the audio listeners, we'll have a little bit of of Lovecraftian graphics. So I tried to find something that was evocative of something being grabbed by an elder god and darkly, lovingly embraced, but this is all I could come up with so far. But so the future, any mention of the Embracer Group, hopefully will be accompanied by some eldritch tentacles. And that's not a comment on anything particular. All right. So that's everything I had to kind of wrap up 2021. So take a look at the live stream, which we archive on both YouTube and Twitch, and I'm going to take a quick look through after we end the podcast at the materials that were provided, the abridged version, basically, of the Icespire Peak adventure, and we'll see what they actually did and what they're giving away for free, and kind of, if you buy the physical product, what you would actually what you're actually missing in comparison. But thank you for joining me for this last episode of 2021. So kept up with everything that Chris is doing on Chris's social media with HiveMind. So I'm not going to be able to spell this. So HiveMind with Y's instead of I's on social media, as well as itch.io. And I'll put links to everything in the description so you can find that. And I do a single panel gag cartoon, which I live stream on Monday evenings, North American time, like Tuesday afternoon, if you're in the other side of the world, in Asia, Australia time zone. And that's on both Twitch and YouTube. And it's just the drawing of the cartoon. And I bring some little things from Japanese convenience stores that I thought were funny and people would enjoy seeing, stuff that may not make it into import shops or anything. So that's a weekly thing, and that's Abuse Cartoons. And if you want to read the cartoon, the archive of almost 20 years of that cartoon is available at gocomics.com/domestic abuse. And this whole thing, this podcast and YouTube channel and all the content that we produce is available at upturnedtable.com. We're on all social media at Upturned Table, and this podcast is archived as a live stream on both YouTube and Twitch. And you can also support us by becoming a weekling at patreon.com/upturnedtable. And we also do a series of fiction, Mutant Chronicles based fiction. So all the little fiction pieces in the Warzone and Mutant Chronicles RPG books we've done as radio dramas, basically, like audio fiction with sound effects and like full kind of cinematic score. And those are available to both YouTube members and Patreon subscribers at every level. So please consider becoming a patron to see those, or click the join button below this video to become a member on YouTube and have access to their video versions. They're basically the graphic for the audio. And if you're a patron, then you have access to the Patreon RSS. So that RSS feed you can just put into any podcast player and hear everything that we upload as audio, including this podcast. So that will do it for 2021, another year in the bag. So we will be back again next week, and Chris and I will lament the good and bad. Yeah, there were some good things, some 3D printing and some good things that came out of 2021. So we'll kind of go over a lot of the things that we liked about that year, about the previous year. I guess we're still in it. And we'll be back again next week. So thank you for joining us, and see you in 2022. Goodbye. All right. Thanks everyone in the chat. Hey Gabby, how's it going? Oh no, that's a Russian bot. Hey Miguel, how's it going? Oh man, good to see you. Hey Robert, how's it going? I mentioned you, Rob. I got to get your link for your podcast in there. I credited you as the my source for the disappearance of Ernie or Ernest, I guess, in Gary Gygax Jr.'s name. But yeah, thank you so much for posting that image. I showed that off on the live stream. All right. And K5 and Joe, thank you so much for hanging out during this whole thing. Very good. Yes. So last stream of the year. Okay. So let me do a quick 20 seconds of silence so I can get this air conditioning out of the audio for the podcast and make it a little easier to listen to. So give me a few seconds here. There we go. That's the most exciting part. All right. Oh, hey. Oh, yeah. I'm just getting, it's VOGFYI. Yeah, this is what the bot said to me in the chat. Yeah, it's just, I think it's on YouTube. I've been getting those in the YouTube chat. Nice. All right. So let's take a quick look at what's going on the... oh, yeah, this is on Facebook as well. That's right. That's the thing I don't credit very much. It's just on my page on Facebook because I'm not subscribed on Restream. You got to pay them to actually put it on your podcast page. But let's take a quick look at what they're offering for the Icespire Peak. Yeah, I don't know how interesting this is going to be, but yeah, I thought I'd take advantage. Since Chris isn't here, we'll have a heavy visual element. You can see the empty seats behind us, right? So I guess I should get rid of this so you can actually see the PDF. All right. Okay, so here it is. So this is just available on the free stuff link on Wizards of the Coast, their D&D page. And so Dragon of Icespire Peak, adventure preview. Yeah, so they're marking this as a preview, so it's not going to get confused. If you have a digital version, I think you can buy this digitally on DriveThruRPG of this original book. They're calling this the preview, so just to get you started, embark on this complimentary preview, including characters of the world's greatest role-playing game. The greatest. Never been topped, right? No one's ever made a better rule system. All right, so yeah, you can see 16 pages, maybe a couple more after this. So running the adventure, they give you an overview, Nomengard, the location and your arrival, the creatures, pre-generated characters, which they give to you separately as well in a separate PDF, magic items, and your next adventure. All right, well, they give you the art. That's nice. The one thing that they often do with previews is to strip out the art. So they include the art in those pages. So this is a preview version of some of the material first presented in the D&D Essentials Kit and is meant for a new group's first D&D experience. The short adventure materials, characters, and supplemental information here should get a group started on their journey. If you want someone from your group to be the dungeon master, photocopy the characters. Oh, you will want. Photocopy the characters in the back of this book or head to dnd.wizards.com for the character sheets to download them. And they're nice looking character sheets. There's nice character art, and they've got the nice layout and graphic design of all the Wizards 5e stuff. And you can also obtain the basic rules. So of course the basic rules kind of SRD has been available free on the Wizards webpage since 5e came out. I think a little bit before some of the published materials came out. All right, so it's a collection of locations and quests to inspire you to tell a story. So you can run this special preview of Dragons of Icespire Peak for 3 to 5 players. Each player starts with a first level character provided at the end of the book. Yeah, I think there are 4 or 5 pre-gens. So the adventure is a short distance from the city of Neverwinter in the Sword Coast Forgotten Realms setting. And there is a dragon. All right, and then it just basically runs you through. I was just trying to pull out anything that looked like they rewrote it for this adventure. I don't want to spoil anything if anybody wants to actually try this out. So we'll just kind of take a look quick through. So they give you, and I like the little boxes where they'll give you either text to read or little cues for the DM to be able to run things and give you little suggestions. And there's a map as well. Yeah, so they didn't skimp on anything you'd actually need for running this. They give you all of the locations and information. So that's good. That's great. And here are so no images for the monsters themselves, but here is the kind of mini monster manual of everything that's going to be in this adventure with the style. Oh, there we go. There's a mimic. So that's good. They throw some the stuff in there. Okay, so this is odd. I guess it's for printing sake, or I guess so you can give it to the players separately, give them the PDF. But the other PDF is basically the last few pages of this book. So here are the pre-gen characters that they include. So they give you a half-elk cleric. And they do, yeah, character art. That's nice. And so you get everything laid out. So it's not, the character sheet, so maybe a little confusing for new players to look at this and then look at the standard character sheet and see how it's set up. But yeah, details about everything. See the back for more information on all the equipment. Yeah, so pretty nice, pretty compact version of the character sheet. So yeah, and then the half-elf monk. They got a lot of half-elves here. I guess that's only people that want to deal with gnomes. And yeah, it's pretty well. Oh, there we go. There's the back of this sheet. So they give you the proficiencies, racial traits, and spells and everything. So it's a front and back of those two. And then a half-elf wizard. So I guess half-elf. You gotta go with half-elf. If you're gonna play this adventure. So the pre-gens are all half elves, and maybe there's a nod to why that is. So we have our wizard, and then we have our Lightfoot halfling rogue. So pretty, yeah, standard kind of race class matches. And then here's the back of those sheets. Yeah, so two-sided. And so this is included as a separate separate PDF. So you can only give this to the characters so they only see this information and nothing from the adventure. But I guess then the DM also has access to this. And one more. We've got our Hill Dwarf Fighter. So these are all level 1 characters. Oh, and one more. Grim the Dragonborn Fighter. So that's 6. 2, come on. 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So that's great. That's a decent selection. So it's not like you have to play every one of the pre-gen characters. That's great. So yeah, you've got a pretty wide variety of character types. So somebody for everyone, hopefully. So yeah, cleric, wizard, thief, the fighter, and two fighters. That's right, half dwarf fighter, and then the dragonborn fighter. Great. So lots of melee and magic, and then we've also got the list of magic items. So this is things that you may come up with, and and there we go. Here's that thing for the next adventure with a big QR code. That's great. There we go. So your adventure with D&D is only just beginning. So here are 2 paths you can take to learn more about the game. So you can actually buy the physical Essentials kit. So I guess the this preview is just your arrival in Nomengard and kind of that first area. So you're level 1, and it's an introduction to the area, and probably building up to you want to go to the top of the mountain and deal with this dragon. And so the complete Icespire Peak adventure in the Essentials kit will get you from 1 to 5. So much more of a robust, and it even has kind of a hub. The way that that adventure is set, it's got kind of an adventure hub, so you can come back to kind of the main starting city, which I get is in it's Phandalin, I believe, is what they're using as kind of your adventure hub. So you can keep coming back and getting different quests that'll take you to different places and can possibly link you to other published adventures. But yeah, this will take your characters from 1 to 5, the actual published the physical copy of the Essentials kit. The DM screen, blank character sheets. So yeah, I don't know. That's it's nice they give you pre-gens, because that means you can play this right away. But yeah, I think you're going to want to make a character, maybe just after the taste of what it's like to play a fighter, what it's like to play a wizard. You'll but level 1, I don't know if that's going to give you enough of a taste. But they're trying to sell the Essentials kit, and it's got a lot of stuff in it. It's got a really nice set of dice, a big set of dice with like 3d6s and your percentile dice, and 2 d20s, so you can roll advantage and disadvantage and all that good stuff. So you can make a physical purchase, or you can just go get the free basic rules that are on their website, and continue from there. So if the DM is feeling creative, I think there's enough in that little introduction to Nomengard that you can take off from there. And there's a ton of other resources for Forgotten Realms and Sword Coast, and even inspiration from the games if you played the Sword Coast based PC game, or any experience with the older Forgotten Realms PC games. Those are other good inspirations if you're a first time D&D player for moving out into the world. Nice. And there's a key for the map that they give you, and that is all. Wow. So for free, that's not bad. I mean, it's a first step, basically. I think it's basically a session, and if it's 5e, you'll probably be leveling up in that first session. You'll say hello to a couple of gnomes, and you will be level 2. Yeah, it looks good. As far as the presentation, it's not too bare bones. Like if you take a look at the free rules are basically almost just a Word doc. There's very little there. But yeah, so we saw the characters, and that's the other PDF that they give you. So yeah, that's exactly it. So just those character sections with the front and the back of the characters are what you can have as a separate PDF to give to the players. So you don't have to print them off. You can give them to them digitally. All right. So that's the offering from Wizards. So that's all free, and I believe they may even. I'm totally blanking now. They did give away on I don't know if it was Roll20 or another, or maybe their own D&D Beyond platform, a free adventure as well. And I'm not sure if it's this same one, but they'll allow you to play it online. So they'll give you the map and everything and tokens, probably in the virtual tabletop as well. And I can't remember if that was this or not, but they were promoting another free adventure specifically as assets for a virtual tabletop. So that was that. So yeah, that's what they came up with, and they're still trying to gateway everybody. They're still trying to find ways to get people into their version of the hobby. So we'll see. All right. Yeah. So Unknown Girl, yes, this is still the same damn game. This is the fifth edition of Dungeons and Dragons. But yeah, if you remember any older relatives playing this game, that's the game they were playing. The rules have evolved a bit, or depending on your opinion, the rules have changed. But yeah, it's still the same property. Yeah, it was originally, so TSR was purchased by Wizards of the Coast, so it's been published by Wizards of the Coast for a while. But yeah, Unknown Girl, it is the same. And thanks for joining the live stream. All right. So, fires in the new year. Oh, this is terrible. Snow in California and forest fires in Colorado. Well, 2022, I'm sure, will be just as treacherous as previous years. Oh, wow. Well, thanks, everyone, for hanging out in the chat. It's good to see you, and Happy New Year to everyone. We'll be back next week with a kind of year in review, hopefully. We'll just kind of reminisce and talk about what we wish had happened. Few times, it was literally a handful of times that we actually saw each other in person. So luckily Chris and I can get together during lunch breaks. That helps a lot for continuing this podcast and live stream. But yes, Unknown Girl, it is they're coming up to the what are they calling this? It's not, it is almost 50. Yeah, they're coming up to the big anniversary. I forget what they're calling the anniversary, but yeah, in 2024, I forget what they call what the origin year of it is. I'm looking terrible, but yeah, there's a big anniversary version coming up soon. So it's been around for a long time, probably older than a lot of people that are playing it. So yeah, take care, everyone. Have a happy new year, and we will be back next week. So see you then. Goodbye.